This is a short video as part of a series that I'm doing on how to publish a book in 2016. And I'm going to talk about book cover design, especially ebook cover design. I have other videos, so in this series there's going to be links to DIYbookcovers.com. There's a whole series on designing book covers and some free tools and templates and stuff that'll help you design book covers that are going to sell. But let's talk about basic principles, because what always happens, nonfiction book, it's kind of interesting because nonfiction authors, they're publishing as a business, so they know that the book cover has to be, it's kind of like an advertisement. It has to sell the book. The book cover has to attract the right readers and get them to buy the book. Actually, I'm going to stop there already, because I used to say the book cover has to sell the book. That's actually not true. Your book cover is too small to sell the book. Selling is about overcoming reader objections. So they're thinking, do I really want this book? Why should I buy this book? They're asking questions, and your book description or the book reviews, those are what overcome reader, objections, reader objections. So the book cover is only to catch the ideal reader's attention and get them to read the reviews and the description. A lot of authors will try too much, to put too much into the book cover. So they'll try to sell the book. They'll try, for example, I'm talking with one nonfiction author now, and they've got tons of text on the front cover of the ebook. And I said, that's way too much text, because when you look at a book cover, you're not making a cerebral, objective decision about purchasing the book based on the book cover. The book cover is just to catch your attention. So people don't read the small text on the book cover. They don't think about the book cover for a long time to see whether or not they want to buy the book. The book cover is like 1 second. It attracts them and they're interested and they read the description, or it doesn't and they're gone and they never read the description, never read the reviews, because the book cover doesn't attract them. So the book cover is simpler than you think it needs to be, especially for fiction. Fiction authors always start off thinking in, Fiction authors always start off thinking in scenes. So they think, I want this scene with these characters, with these objects to like represent the whole concept of my story and symbolize all this stuff that happens in the story. None of that stuff matters, because you'll never have the chance to explain what your book cover means to your readers. So if you think, oh, my book cover is awesome because I can talk about all this stuff, this represents this and this means this, you'll never have the chance to explain that to readers. It's either immediate and effective and powerful, or it isn't. And the more stuff you put in, almost always, and I'll explain why this is true, you want to keep your book cover very simple. And for fiction, there's 3 things that work really well. You can either have one picture that's one scene. Sometimes it's just a scene at the bottom and a sky on the top. That's fine. Or the same thing with a character in it. It's nice to have a humanizing element. So like either really big a character's face on top, or really small a character, usually from the back, and they're looking at the scene. That works pretty well. What you don't want to do is have 3 characters and lots of objects and different scenes, like a montage or a collage of different stuff, because that's going to be too complicated. Some traditionally published books do that anyway, but that's because they have professional designers, and it's hard to do that kind of cover design well. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to need to be done professionally. So if you try to get a cheap designer to make that kind of cover, it's going to be really ugly and too busy, and nothing's going to look right. It's not going to be powerful. It's so much more better to have one simple image with clean text than just have something really complicated. Also, it's really important that it looks like holistic, like one cover. The things that's going to catch people's eye are contrast. So that's color contrast, usually contrasting colors. You can look at the color wheel and look at the opposites. So purple and green are opposites. Teal and orange are the perfect opposite colors. And you'll see, if you look at like movie posters from now on, 50% of all movie posters are going to have teal and orange, because that works. It's very strong. It's powerful. So color contrast, but also black and white contrast, where you have very strong lights and darks, are important. So that's what makes a cover kind of pop and stand out and be eye-catching. But you need to have one scene or one image, not like a montage. And then there's adding the text. You want to choose good fonts that are appropriate for your genre, because the fonts are going to tell readers what genre it is, and then they're going to know like whether this is the type of book they like to read. Your book cover should look like all the other best-selling books in your genre. It should look like, if you make a picture of the 100 bestsellers all together, you'll notice certain things in common. They have certain colors, their layout is the same, they have similar fonts, there's a style. They may still be very different. Sometimes, like a huge best-selling author, they can take risks with their book cover. They can do whatever they want because people are going to buy it anyway because they're famous and they have a huge list. If you're a self-publishing author without a platform, you don't have the freedom to play around with your book cover and try to do something radical or different, because if people who don't know you look at the cover and they don't immediately know what genre it is, that's a huge problem. It's not going to appeal to them. They're not going to read the description because they don't think it's the type of book that they like to read. So that's the problem with doing something creative, or like saying, I've written some stuff about like book cover cliches, because a lot of people say you don't want your book cover to look like a cliche, and that's bullshit, because you don't want your book cover to stand out and be different and not look like the other books in your category, because then it won't be recognizable. It's not going to sell. It's much better to err on the side of looking like a cliche and fitting into your genre category than it is to be different and try to do something new that doesn't sell the book. Because in the end, your only goal as an author is to get more people to buy and read the book. And it's very easy for indie authors to get distracted by the book cover and get really excited about it, and to, especially if they're designing, they don't know what they're doing with book cover design or with design tools. When you first design your own cover, you're going to love it because you made it and you had a lot of fun in the process and you think you got it just right. And it's going to be very hard for you to recognize later that if it's not selling, it's the book cover's problem. So there's a danger with doing it yourself. I think you can design your own cover. I've put a lot of resources and templates and tools to help you design your own cover, as long as you understand the principles of book cover design, what a book cover actually does, how to use book covers to sell the book. And you don't just start with a blank canvas and do whatever you want, because that's not going to work. But if you understand what you need to sell your book and you try to make that and keep it pretty simple, you can do a decent job. You can use canva.com, you can use wordswag.com to make a simple cover that's better than the montage of the collage cover that you thought would be a good idea. You can also pay someone on Fiverr for $50. You can get a decent cover that's probably better than what you made by yourself. For $200 to $300, you can go on 99 Designs and get a very professional quality cover. It may not be creative, but on 99 Designs, you can get a very nice looking, professionally made cover for both ebook and print that'll do the job, that'll work. And you shouldn't stress out or worry too much about the book cover. You just need to get it done and it needs to look good. You don't want to spend months messing around with it. You want to get feedback, but you want to be careful about asking for feedback on your book cover, because if you just publish it like on Facebook, it's good pre-marketing to start asking for opinions, but you can't really take the advice seriously, because most other people, they're not readers in your genre, and when you ask people for feedback on your book cover design, they don't really know what they're talking about. They'll tell you what they think. They'll examine it, and they might tell you like small changes, like do this, try this, but probably your cover just doesn't work. It just needs to be remade completely, and you're not going to get that kind of feedback when you ask people for their opinion. You'll get changes, but small changes aren't going to matter very much if the whole cover needs to go. So you need to be aware of that. The cover is crucial. You've got to get it right. You have to take it seriously, but you don't want to sink a ton of time in making it yourself, because it's very easy to spend weeks and weeks designing it and then another month redesigning it and then trying over again, when you could have just paid a couple $100 to get something that works and gone back to your writing. Get something like, if you don't have a budget, that's fine. You can do something cheap, but don't stress out don't control the process, because most authors will control the process and then do it wrong because they don't know what book cover design is all about. And that's why I have all these tons of free training videos that you can watch to learn more about book cover design. This is kind of a crash course on publishing a book in 2016, so I'm going to stop this video here, but you really should watch the other videos on book cover design, because that's the place most authors are going to screw up, and it's really important you get it right.